Hello, hello. We will be going live in 1 minute. We are so excited. We are inviting the Tiny Health team. There we are. Awesome.
Hey, Madeline.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, good to see you again.
Yes, you too. We are super excited to have you here. Thank you for your time today. We're just going to give everyone just a minute or two to jump on here, but we are excited to be talking about poop testing.
Yes,
Who can get excited about poop testing? I actually just did a poop testing sample with the Tiny Health team about a month ago and was completely blown away with the insights that came through on my sample. We know that I'm very passionate about this and wanted to bring Cheryl on from the Tiny Health team to share more with our Begin Health families what poop testing means, why it's not scary, and what you can learn. There's a Tiny Health kit. Woo! Love it. Yes. I was intimidated, I'll be honest. I was intimidated for like a minute because I was like, you have to dive in and get your sample. There you go. But it's not scary at all.
we're actually, you commented on this. Our testing swab is actually less intimidating than the other stool testing companies that make you scoop up the stool and mix it into this liquid and shake it. Ours is actually really easy. You just, it's like a cotton swab really, but there's a dry desiccant in it. So you just have to wipe like normal with a toilet tissue, or if you have a baby in diapers, you are sampling straight from the diaper, and you only need a little bit of matter, like just a touch, not too much, a little, and throw it in a prepaid envelope, send it back to our lab, and then we process it.
Yeah, it was super easy. And that was the thing. I was worried because I had taken so many ahead of time. I knew it was like this big thing. I was going to have to prepare my gloves. And then I actually opened the kit and I was like, wow, this is awesome. So it was super easy and got my results a couple weeks later and have been taking some actionable insights since then. So, Cheryl, thank you so much. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So, here we are. We wanted to just dive in with to learn more about, just the story about tiny health. A lot of times families come to Begin Health. We are the kids' health platform with the gut microbiome, focused on nourishing the gut microbiome through our prebiotics, the growing up prebiotics. And, we're super passionate about this category. And what we find is families come to Begin almost because they cannot find other solutions. They've been out in the market, they've gone to their pediatrician, they're just, they have no answers. And they're struggling. And so they want a solution. And so we're curious, just, how did you stumble upon gut microbiome testing? What was your story and what led you to starting Tiny Health?
Yeah, so first of all, we are the first and only gut microbiome testing or poop testing company that is specifically tailored for expecting or pregnant moms and young babies between 0 to 3 years old. We invented the test in this category. There are other adult poop test companies, but their reference ranges for what's within range, what's normal and what's not normal, are tailored for adults, which is very different for young babies whose immune system and gut microbiome is still developing. And basically my story for why I started began around 4 years ago when my daughter was born by a C-section. So she was breached, which means upside down, not head down first. And the doctor told me there was a high likelihood that I would have to have a C-section with her. So then I was researching, well, what would that mean? Are there any lifelong health consequences for my daughter? And I found all these research papers relating gut microbiome seeding that a C-section baby might miss because they're not passing through the mom's vaginal canal. And those microbes that the baby gets from the vaginal microbiome and vaginal canal are essential to seed their gut with the pioneering microbes. The baby also gets the gut microbe from the mom through some fecal fluid when you're pushing sounds gross, but it's how nature intended to feed the baby with the mom's vaginal and gut microbes. So the whole labor process, the water releasing and inoculating the baby with the mom's microbes are actually a really natural and healthy process. And it creates this environment in at birth and the early days that really changes the trajectory of the baby's gut microbiome development. So if there was a C-section or antibiotics during birth and during labor, that could disrupt that colonization process. And it could lead to a condition called allergic march or atopic march, which is the progression of allergic diseases that starts with eczema around 6 months when the baby starts solids. It may turn into food allergies when the baby's between 6 months to a year old or 2 years old, then turning into rhinitis, which is hay fever, and then finally asthma between 5 to 6 years old. That is literally a sign that the baby's immune system at birth wasn't quite ready. So I was like, oh no, am I doomed because of the C-section for my daughter's health? Then I found all these papers that there are ways to restore the child's microbiome or gut health by
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's breast.
So that means you're almost saying that parents have like there are tools that enable parents to be able to change the trajectory of their little's microbiome.
Correct. So then I was like, oh, what can I do? So I tried to breastfeed her as much as I could. When starting solids, there's a lot of factors there too, in starting when to start allergens, what kinds of solids to start. Fermented foods. I was making a lot of homemade probiotics and kefir. So all the whole time I was doing these, I wish I could measure my baby's. I was actually restoring her gut, but there was no test, as I mentioned at the time, 4 years ago or 3 years ago. All the tests were for adults. So then fast forward 2 years after my daughter was born, my son was born, this time to a vaginal birth home, in fact. I started the company a month after he was born because I was like, this time I really want to see what's going on in his gut. I found all these research. I was working with a pathologist and define the microbiome development trajectory of the child's gut in the first year, in the second year, and the third year. These are crucial times in the child's progression. And finally, between 5 years old, the child's pretty mature and matures, which really just means that it's just part of microbiome post 3 years old, because mainly breastfeeding anymore isn't actually consuming HMOs, the human milk oligosaccharides. That's really prominent in your begin prebiotics.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a huge correlation between that and the child's gut health.
That's incredible. And so you were able to start that, and now you're out in the market, you're bringing poop testing to families all over the US. And tell us more, we talked a little bit earlier about, what the gut microbiome test actually achieved. But is there anywhere, can you tell us a little bit more, like what are you looking for? Are you looking for specific bacteria that families can say, hey, this bacteria is not so friendly to your gut. This is how you can minimize it. Or, hey, this bacteria is more positive. How can we feed and nourish those bacteria? So tell us more about, how a family would take the Tiny Health test, get on your regimen essentially, and start to see improvements over time.
That's right. So 3 years is what we call the first 1,000 days, and actually really starts when the mom gets pregnant. What we is this group of bacteria called bifidobacteria, and many different types of bifidobacteria. And then this bacteria is in a probiotic at the store. There's bifidobacteria-based ones, there's spore-based bacillus. Now, in we know that a baby's gut should be dominated by bifidobacteria. 4 specific strains. So if actually the mom is first, she was maybe born by a C-section, or she might actually not even have those bacteria to begin with to pass on to baby, which is really crucial and foundational for their health. So we look out for those.
I knew actually, Cheryl, maybe you saw this study. It was like 9 in 10 babies now were struggling to even have the good bacteria at the beginning. I don't know if that is still the right stat, but this is happening more and more. Like, families aren't alone. This isn't something that's just like a one-off case anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
Can you
This
speak to that?
was published. 90% moms actually are missing this bifidobacteria. So if the mom's missing it, then she will less likely pass it. And what that really means is the baby may need extra support, a probiotic in conjunction with breastfeeding, or if the mom can't breastfeed, take a formula that has HMOs. So that HMO, the HMOs in the breast milk is food to the bifidobacteria that should be dominating the baby's gut in life. Then after that, we still look out for that, for the beneficial ones, but it becomes less important, or at least the percentage becomes 10%, 5%, and we have percent of group of bacteria. It's healthy, but in the first year of life, the 30 or 90%, between 30 and 90% of the baby's gut, and that ensures that gut health is protected and they're likely to develop chronic conditions, or maybe even things like constipation or some GI issues later.
Okay, that's great. And so now that families have started on the testing, and typically, like, how often do you recommend families test their fecal samples, and how does a family know that they're like on the right track?
Mm-hmm. There's real, it's never too late to test. At birth is the most crucial to see what's seeded from mom. But in the early days, when if they're switching from breast milk to formula, if they're starting solids, if for whatever reason they take medication, but basically do a blind test before anything happens, what the state is, and then you test later when there's some major change, dietary supplement style change, to see if it really affected their gut. And get a lot of toddlers after 3 years old, and we get these discussion a lot, old, and that the gut matures 3 to 5. Is it still able to test? And we always say yes, because at the end of the day, your child is still young at like 3 or 4, and there's a lot of opportunities to develop good diet, which includes eating more fiber and plant-based foods, less processed foods, and things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity to influence lifestyle supplements that can help with digestive system and their gut health. So it's never really too late to track and check in on their gut health and see what's going on.
Absolutely. And can you tell us some stories about some of your families that have gone through this testing? They may have been struggling to find answers with their doctors, and they've gone through every test with their pediatric gastroenterologist, and still there are no answers, but they are finally able to test the gut microbes and find some kind of underlying challenge. Like, tell us some stories.
Yeah, so we have one story. We ended up testing the 3-year-old. I think he came to us when he was 2.5 years old, in fact, and obviously no longer breastfeeding at the time, but had 0 bifidobacteria, the beneficial microbe I was mentioning that's common in a lot of probiotics. And I know this sounds a bit technical, but if you were to feed a toddler who's no longer breastfeeding probiotics, it's not going to colonize their gut unless you have prebiotics or food for the probiotics. So we actually found you guys and recommended the prebiotics in conjunction with probiotics toddler taking. So he went from 0 bifidobacteria to 8% of the entire gut, which is a really good level. And I kind of want to show you this chart. I'm not sure if you can
Okay.
see this. If I can, let me actually scroll to the right level. Can you see it? So like this is kind of a dashboard of our results, and this is 3 years old and went from like 0 to 8.3% here, which is in the green, and obviously he started out in the red.
Wow.
He was
That's
having
awesome.
issues, and so our test really tries to personalize it and give them actionable recommendations, like, you know, specific probiotics that we would recommend or supplements that we recommend. And in addition to that, if there are some studies, for example, that shows that more dairy in a child's diet leads to higher constipation. So we recommend that they try maybe cutting some dairy out to see if that changed things. And then in conjunction with sort of seeing what bacteria changed in the child's gut, we can really precisely recommend what actionable steps to take, right? Before, it's kind of like when kids have symptoms, you're kind of shooting, let's try to supplement and hope it works. Oh, we truly have a way to see what changed based on what supplements and what dietary measures we took. I find it very important to me as a parent, being able to get the transparency in what's happening in my child's gut. Therefore, I wanted to bring all parents to have that data in their hands so that they can actually take action very confidently.
That's awesome. So if you're a parent and you're interested in getting tested and getting your little one's poop sample tested, like walk us through, is this something that you go on your website? Can you talk to your pediatrician about? I think I even saw HSA and FSA available, so that's a huge win. So just like, what does that look like for a family?
Yeah, so we are a direct consumer company for, and you can just come onto our store at tinyhealth.com and and buy the kits in the right age ranges. So we have a baby kit between 0 to 3 years old, an older kit for kids between 3 and 18 years old. We have adults testing and mom who's pregnant, right, microbes to transfer to baby. So you can purchase all the tests directly. We ship it to your home. Again, it's all done at home in the privacy of your own bathroom, and you mail it into our lab, and we get your results back to you in a few weeks. We personalize set of notes for what to do, what you can do if you need a supplement or probiotic right now. You tell us what you're doing, and we look into whether that's actually for your child, if you're taking, and if you need any adjustments. We don't offer it through a pediatrician now or doctor, because right now, I think the medical institutions are still learning about gut health and catching up. As you may know, your doctors are all, I'm sure, really brilliant. Your pediatricians are brilliant, but they probably went to school like, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago when gut microbiome was yet. And
Absolutely.
yeah, right. So all these research that's coming out in the past 10 years is truly groundbreaking. But I would more evidence showing what's healthy in a child's microbiome than there in an adult microbiome. So for us, we are an academic scientists. We are quite confident that we can actually show your baby has.
Yeah, so this is, for begin families who are still struggling, they want more answers, we absolutely recommend getting that Tiny Health Poop Test Kit and starting to learn about those insights and seeing, what could be going on that might not be immediately obvious, just by a general, you know, practitioner having a conversation with you and pushing Miralax, right? So that happens with a lot of our families. Just their practitioner just continues to only push Miralax as a laxative for constipation, and there may be something else going on. And so this could be a really great way to highlight that. And so on that topic, at Begin, we really love to encourage our families just general gut health positive habits. What are ways that we can take control over our own lives to nourish the gut microbiome, feed those good gut bugs. That is what Begin Growing Up Prebiotics is designed to do. And Cheryl, you talked a little bit more about some other factors like eating fermented foods or, just general positive habits. Is there anything else that you recommend to our families to also kind of follow this positive gut microbiome environment?
Yeah, and I want to comment your point earlier too, that sometimes when our child has some symptoms or conditions and we go to a doctor, we are usually being prescribed, but the treatment of manages not going to cure the root cause, help solve root cause issues, which a lot of it comes from, I don't know if you know the stats, but 80% in our gut, and really or beneficial bacteria. So much of our immune system lives in our gut, and it's created in the first 1,000 days. And so for us, to improve and promote health, it really has to be tackled from a dietary supplement, which and so it's just really more fight. It's a challenging topic for toddlers because toddlers are picky eaters and they don't like
super picky.
They like to eat fruits, but not so much vegetables, right? So I think a lot of it is what are like tips and tricks that you as a parent can do to get your toddler eating more fiber. We like a lot of menus out there, if you go and restaurant, are like mac and cheese or cheese pizza, and they often don't have any fiber at all. And I'm always like, how is there like you do a pizza broccoli top or add some, so we always make sure that our kids eat fiber. And there are things you can do like a smoothie in the summer for your kids and add more like blended kale or Swiss chard and add more fiber, or begin prebiotics and add to it so your child gets more fiber. So there's definitely things from a dietary perspective like tricks and tips that you help your toddler just eat more fiber. And other things to protect and improve gut health are not using harsh household cleaners, because when over sanitized and like too much hand sanitizers actually may harm your kids' microbiome. We try to make sure they go in nature a lot, and when they pick up dirt, organic and eat, like kind of like play with it, we let them play with it. We don't freak out. We don't we don't feel like we have to wash everything that falls to the ground. When they meet a pet outside, we don't have a pet, we wish we could, but like let our kids play with them, because all these things are define your child's microbiome, and they have a good balance between good bacteria and some of these like maybe less friendly bacteria that are still in the baby's immune system. There is a hygiene hypothesis where if you are living in too clean environment, your kid is more likely to develop allergies because they're not getting the crucial microbes to train the baby's immune system in the early days. So there's just a lot of things that you can do from a dietary perspective. You know, we invest in our well.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. And to that point, where families can cut out the processed food that have so many different ingredients in there that you can't even really even pronounce. Just it's hard, you know. You have to try to eat the positive food that nourish those gut microbes versus nourishing the poor ones. So those are really great tips, Cheryl. Thank you so much. I was going to ask, just in case there was any questions out there, feel free to type them in and just write them in the add a comment, and we'll see if we can answer them. But generally, I think, you know, Cheryl, the important part is that the gut microbiome is very important in the first 1,000 days. But it's something that we can always continue to feed and nourish over the years. And you have tests for parents as well. So if parents are interested in testing alongside their little ones, you also offer that. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because ultimately, as a family, you want to inculcate good habits. And we see families doing between the mom and the dad, the sibling, and they tend to share microbes because you're living in the same environment, you're doing the same things and eating the same foods. You know, sometimes, you know, old baby eat microbiome directly from mom through birth. The dad, because close contact, can also pass on some microbes to the baby. So, like, for example, my husband, one microbe Archimensea that is really important for gut lining, and I don't have it for some reason. I, you know, no longer have this really beneficial microbe. So I'm getting my husband to kiss more, or because I want to see those. And so that's one of the crucial microbes that are important for metabolic health and even preventing allergies. And so we have all these special keystone we look out for in our tests to make sure that all eventually, you know, sees those microbes. Testing as well, as I mentioned, because if someone in your family, there's pass it on to the baby. If none of your family members, then there's a more pressing need to get microbes from outsiders, supplement or fruits or some specific food that. So that's where for me, you can't improve, can't measure what you can't see. So for me, the test gives you that visibility into specifically what your gut, what you as an adult, what you need. You can actually make adjustments rather than do the thing and not really know it actually.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And I think, Cheryl, you've done an amazing job, you know, with your sharing those insights on your customer portal, where families can really just see the actual bacteria, which is actually very novel. A lot of other poop testing companies do not offer that. And so great job with everything that you've done at Tiny Health. And we're excited to share this with the Begin Health families. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
We really appreciate having you on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. And so Begin Health families, we have partnered with Tiny Health, so we have discount codes available. DM us and we will get those to you. And hopefully we will be speaking with Cheryl again soon. All right. Take care, Cheryl. Thank you. Bye-bye.